Alright, so the animal I chose to do is the ring-tailed lemur. Uh, so I found out some cool facts while researching this. Uh, Lemurs are actually primates, which I didn't know beforehand to this project. Um, they actually eat bark, leaves, fruit, and flowers. The bark actually kind of threw me, so that's kind of cool. And then they also sit in a yoga position when they sunbathe. It's really cool to see, actually. So the tool that I chose to use with my lemur is a tree. And since the lemur eats the bark, leaves, flower, and fruit, I chose to add that to my tree to try to make my tree a little bit more dynamic and useful within my tools and within the tool, and hopefully within levels to come. So each of these pieces of bark and the leaves are made individually. It's not just one big piece. It's supposed to be able to the animal or my lemur can collide with it or enter its trigger volume and destroy it and show that it's supposed to be eating it and still hold the tree itself, because as you brought up in our lecture, someone had a tree before and their animal ate the leaves, but it ate all the leaves, which doesn't make sense. So that's the reason why I decided to use it as like balls. So you get the mass, but you still have it to where it's one at a time. So let's run through this real quick. I have it on max on play. Make sure my volume is on. And here you go. And there he goes and eats the last bit of the leaf. So I have a audio source added on, and that is a few ring-tailed lemurs that howl and make screeching noises, just to add a little ambiance to the whole area. I have my lemur running on animation, and I had issues with getting the animation to line up, and after talking to you about it and doing the whole ad force, I couldn't figure out how to do it properly. So I just decided to leave the animation. I put the two pieces of bark and the leaves on a timer so that they destroy themselves, so it makes it seem like it. But hopefully next week, after we integrate some more of everybody else's code, I can find someone's code that works well with actually interacting with the world and still doing the whole NPC type movement, to where it actually collides with things and affects the world without using animation. And if that can happen, I feel like my tool will be a lot more useful, because you'll actually be able to see the correct progression that I want to show. So let's go over to the Trello board real quick. Okay, so here's my Trello board. And as you can see, most of my stuff is in the done's list. I just have the video link as in backlog, which I'm currently working on. It actually should be in the sprint, so there you go. So in this, I go through the characteristics of my lemur and what they do and their like behaviors and type and stuff like that. So I talk about how lemurs can walk around on 2 or 4 legs. They eat bark, leaves, fruits, and flowers, which we went over earlier. They climb trees and jump up trees pretty quickly, and then they like to sunbathe in their yoga position. And then here is my tool. I just do a brief description on what my tool is, what it's supposed to do, and how the animals or my lemur are supposed to interact with it. And then here is my NPC level. I didn't do it the way I should have done it. And after trying to do it after everything is done. It's definitely the wrong way to do it. So I learned a lesson there. So like halfway through, I had to kind of fake some of the things, and it seems very half-ass. So like, does it fit the theme? Of course it does. If it didn't, why did I do it? Does a tree look like a tree? Hopefully it does. If not, I need to get my brain checked. So, and then here is my document. I have a link. Takes you right here. Here it talks about how it goes over my ring-tailed lemur, and then the details is something that I show. So I show that it climbs up the tree, and now it eats multiple things. So the data attributes that I showed are what it eats and that it climbs. I didn't know if I should have done one for my tool. At the end of the day, I probably should have done one for my tool. I might go ahead and go back and do one after this is turned in, just to help future people, especially if my tool is actually useful and you decide to use it later on. So I go over the description in it, how it interacts with within the scene that I show, how it interacts with certain things, and how the lemur behaves. This is the only concept art that I used, and the only other thing that I used was the audio source, which I got from a Free Sounds website, which I can get and I will add to the video's description. And then if you go back to the Trello board, come over here, I have some research that I did. This goes over some of the stuff that I found out, that lemurs actually run in pretty large groups, like 20 to 30 usually. They actually have glands below their hands that they use to fight off other lemurs, to fight off any predators, and actually attract mates. And then here I have a zoo link, which I usually have up right here. This talks about how lemurs behave and certain things from the Cincinnati Zoo. And from what this man says, the Cincinnati Zoo has the largest attraction of lemurs. And then the other link that I have is for a stink fight. And this just goes into more detail about the glands, because I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought about doing that, but I didn't know how I could fit it in with the issue of it being an NPC. So I couldn't figure anything out for that. Let's see what else. So I only honestly used one script throughout, because it's running on animation, and it's just a simple on update. It destroys game object, and then just calls a timer, which sets it to a specific time, and after that time elapses, the game object is destroyed. All my things are prefabbed and labeled with my name, so nothing gets messed up. I have all my materials and of course my animations. So yeah, thank you for another challenging assignment, and peace out.